Dr. Tabatha, the functional gynecologist. I'm a board-certified OBGYN and functional medicine physician. I've embraced the world of functional medicine and wellness through my own personal health journey, and I'm super excited to share my wisdom and unique perspective as it pertains to women's health. So if you're struggling with hormone imbalance, weight gain, period issues, anxiety, insomnia, you name it, then you've come to the right place. I want to be your functional gynecologist. So welcome. Hi friends, welcome back. So I just interviewed Amy Stark and it was really awesome. You're going to enjoy this episode. We are talking about energy. Our physical energy, our mental, emotional, how it's all connected, how we are connected to other human beings through our energy, and how we can tap into blocked energy to release that and help us heal. So it's really cool. I know it sounds a little bit woo-woo, but there's a ton of science behind this. I mean, Amy was a science teacher before she, came upon this energy healing work. And so she understands the science. She's going to explain to us, like, how does this all work and why emotional freedom techniques like tapping are so amazing at helping us break through those energy blocks so that we can start feeling better, getting rid of our anxiety, getting rid of our fears, losing weight, like all of those things that are blocking you from being healthy and feeling amazing. She is going to help you tap into. So I have all the links for her in my show notes. You should definitely check it out. But she actually even is going to walk us through a tapping exercise. So tapping is an emotional freedom technique that is super powerful. And she made me cry a little bit because I had a breakthrough during this tapping session. So you're going to want to stay tuned. You're going to want to watch. You're going to want to listen, and you're going to want to participate because it is super powerful. So please listen to this episode, figure out one little golden nugget that you can take with you on your health journey, and hopefully it's tapping because I think it's really powerful. So just quick praises about Amy. She's a speaker and a teacher when it comes to personal transformation. She's the host of the Ophelia podcast. For over a decade, Amy has been teaching others how to master their life and energy with the most cutting-edge tools and techniques. Amy has a degree in psychology, a master's in education. She is LMT certified and a biohacker at heart. So she's a trained Reiki master, which we're going to talk about. She's a reconnective healer, emotional freedom technique practitioner, which, like I said, we're going to do a little exercise today. She is known around the world for helping people create happier and healthier lives full of joy and purpose. So you're going to love her energy and you're going to feel infected by it, which is what you want, right? You want to be around people who lift you up and bring out the best of you. So that is what this episode is about today. And we all need that in this time of COVID when we're all shut down. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling like cabin fever almost because around here it's cold, it's getting dark. I want to see my friends. I want to connect. And so this is the best thing we have is over internet, over Zoom. She's going to do an amazing transformation program come New Year, which teaches emotional freedom techniques to unblock your energy. So I have all those links in my show notes. Check them out. But stay tuned and watch or listen to this episode. Here we go. Welcome, Amy, to the Functional Gynecologist Podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited. I was recently on your podcast and you are an awesome host. I had a ton of fun. So I just think that the work you're doing is amazing. You're bringing all of this new information to the masses, right? How long have you been doing your podcast? The Ophelia podcast.
Yeah, the Ophelia podcast. I started in March. So what's interesting about that is every time that I do anything, I consult, in meditation. And I kept getting the feeling that I should release it ASAP. And I kept hearing, don't delay, and that the world would change. And I was like, well, maybe it's the podcasting world's going to change. And sure enough, it was, the whole world was going to change, and they needed some tools for dealing with fear and mindset change and energy and stuff like that. So perfect
Wow.
timing. Not
Yeah.
so easy on me though, because I have my son home. I have a 6-year-old. So, but thankfully I had like 22 episodes banked.
Nice. Very nice. Well, you are right on that. This stuff is so important right now with COVID and this shutdown. And, I'm in Michigan and we just got shut down again. And it's
Oh,
like there's no end in sight. And we're starting to get cabin fever. It's freezing outside. We don't see the sun as much. And so the work that you're doing is so important. Oh my gosh.
thank you.
So,
Same
yeah.
with you. I loved all the information you gave my listeners. So thank you.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, I want to talk today. I would love for you to share your journey a little bit because I just found it so interesting that you were a science teacher and now you're an energy healer. But to me, that makes sense as a scientist and a medical person myself. I understand that, but I would love for you to share, like, where is that connection and how did you come to find out how important energy really is in our lives?
That's awesome. Yeah, I will definitely share that. And I love that you get it. I'm not always, the doctors aren't always like, oh yeah, I understand. So basically everything is energy, and that's definitely, you could do research and find that out. But my journey started out with being a science teacher in New York City to a very vulnerable population. So they were classified with emotional disturbances. So it was a very dangerous environment for myself, but they were also very unstable on a daily basis. So I had my life threatened, and I was living in New York City, and I wasn't making much money, so basically my fight or flight was on all the time. And I had to leave after 4 years of teaching because I just felt like I wasn't making the difference that I wanted to make. And I was really, really stressed out, and I didn't know what to do next because I had gotten a master's degree in education, and I was just like, what is this all about? So I, on a whim, threw up my profile on like a nanny website, and I was like, I'm just going to take the year off and figure this out. And I wound up finding a family that took me in as their teacher, and I was super grateful for that because it was such a different lifestyle. And I was able to get meditation in, which was recommended to me as a way to like kind of calm down, And so because I was meditating in the morning, I started feeling better. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll do more of this because it feels so good. And then I just kept adding time on. So I would start waking up earlier and adding more time on. And then I'd go to the gym, and I was like the happiest probably I've ever been in my life. I was meditating for 2 hours a day. I was then going to the gym. I was in New York City, and I would drive down the street, which I had a jalopy. But I would drive down the street, and I would just look at people and be like, I love you. And like, thank you for being here. And I had such, a connection with people that I've never really had before. And once you make that connection, I know people who've done long-term meditating, understand that we're all connected. And it was such an eye-opener for me to like have that positive shift happen in me where I was so down and out, just months earlier. So that's when all these gifts started opening up, and I was like, what the heck? I felt great, but then I was seeing weird things. I was feeling weird things. I was like knowing things I probably shouldn't know, like meaning like nobody had told me. And so it was a weird, crazy journey, to understanding this, because I was like, there's gotta be a reason. I'm not crazy. I know myself, So I started diving into the science, and sure enough, it was there. It was just all over the place, and nobody was talking about it, like, out in the open, Thank God for Bruce Lipton. I found his book and The Biology Belief. He was the one that was like, I was like, oh, okay, everything's gonna be all right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that as a society, we understand that we are energetic beings, or maybe most of us, I would think, realize it, or at least on the superficial level. And physicians know this. I mean, we order EKGs, right? That's the electrical current that's pumping through your body and keeping you alive. And when someone dies, it's because there's no more energy movement in the system. But I don't think that we take it to the next level to connect, like, okay, so if I'm an energetic being and I have processes moving, physical to chemical to emotional energy, like the fact that we can connect with other energetic beings and share that, I think is what we're not talking about. And that's what you're talking about, right?
Right. Yeah. So I was meditating and I actually accidentally connected to my twin sister because I thought about her. And then I was with my eyes closed and my eyes started burning and I was like, oh, what is that? And so I opened my eyes and then it stopped burning. And then I closed my eyes again and they started burning. And then I was like, what was the last thing I was thinking about? And it was my twin sister. So I thought to myself, well, I'm gonna call her up and see how she's doing. So I called her up and I said, hey, how are you doing? And she's like, did you talk to mom? Because I have a double pink eye infection. So I was like, what? I was like, that's what it felt like. It felt like I had sand in my eye. So then the next day I was meditating and I thought of my dad and my tooth started hurting. And so I called my mom and I was like, Mom, how is dad doing? And she's like, well, he's at the dentist right now. Last night he bit on a walnut and broke his tooth. And I was like, wait a second, which tooth was it? And then I felt it. It was in the back and the left. She's like, that's the one. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? Here I am connecting to other people, feeling this connection, like I said, throughout New York City when I'm just passing people on the street, but then having these intimate connections of pain. And then I'm like, what's the point of that? Like, what can I do? How can I harness this for good? Like what would be the point of this? Because I didn't like having a tooth that was hurting or eyes that were burning. So it was a gradual progression of like taking classes and realizing I finally, after meditation, realized I said to my friend, I said, I think I can heal with my hands. And she was like, I think there's a class you should take. It's around the corner. And I was like, there's more people like me? Like I had never heard about it. So it was so cool, but it was so confusing at times, and now looking back, it all makes sense, why all these different things opened up in the way that they did, but it kept me curious. And that's just really where I love to stay. It's just, I don't know all the answers and I would like to continue to learn more.
That's awesome. Yeah, my daughter trained in Reiki, and so she does that. And, I would just love for you to share with my listeners, like, how does that work, just on a basic intellectual level?
You know what is so important for people to understand? Like you had mentioned the EKG, and that's how we use, to measure our electrical conductivity within our heart. But if you're walking, let's say you're afraid of snakes and you're walking down the street and you see a snake. Well, I guess it wouldn't be the street, probably it'd be a path more likely. But anyway, your body has a total reaction in like a second or less, right? If you're afraid of it, your eyes, your eyes dilate, your heart starts racing, your breathing changes, you're probably running if you're afraid. And that happened in a split second. And that is the energy communication between the cells. One cell after the other just sent that signal that you were in danger. And that is only possible through energy, because like there wouldn't be any chemical reaction that's going to happen that fast within the body. And so if you are trying to reverse what I would call dis-ease in the body, it's important to look at that energy component because there's something there, right? Like, so if you are in fight or flight, it's going to contract your energy field. It's going to take all your energy from your stomach and put it to your extremities. And you're not going to be in rest, digest, and heal. And that's important because we want to turn that sympathetic nervous system off. We want to go into the parasympathetic. And that's where we're going to be able to heal. And that's why I love energy healing, because it calms people down. It releases the energy that gets stuck and stored inside them. Like when I was first starting out with Reiki, I was like, why is this energy gray right here? Like what happened here? Or why, when I put my hands over it, does it move and get smooth? And then the person doesn't have pain anymore. Like, what is that all about? I kept staying curious. And then I started getting deeper intuition about where that, stuck energy came from. Like if it was from a divorce or if it was from an injury or, a repeating, limiting belief, so it's important that we ask these questions because they're organizing our field. And the heart is really the number one conductor of our whole field, is from research. And that's why I always come back to, how are you feeling, about life? Like, what are you sad? Are you, feeling limited? Do you have a lot of trauma that's still stored and you haven't processed? I finally realized that, I can do all the energy healing I want with people and they'll feel great for a while. But ultimately, if I really want to help them transform their life, I go back to the emotions.
Yeah, I mean, I think people need to realize that thoughts and feelings are actual energetic reactions in our brains, like between our cells. What you're saying, they're passing chemicals back and forth. I mean, this is a living entity. It's not just a thought. And so they can make us sick, right? They can deplete us. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I think about it. Like, if you are in this state of mental suffering and you are using all of this energy and anguish to interpret those feelings or experience them, you're wasting all your energy on it, and there's nothing left for happy feelings or goodness or even physical healing, right?
Right. So that's exactly what I do is like, if you feel like you're not good enough, that program is running all the time and you're trying to meet expectations of other people. So you're sensing other people's energy and what they might need. And that is going to put you on high alert or vigilance. And then you're at the end of the day, you're gonna be like, well, I never got the things that I wanted to do done. And so we wind up really burning ourselves out over time, with these programs that are running. And really the ultimate reason why we're running those programs goes back to childhood. So a lot of what I do with people is finding those programs that have been running for a really long time and help them remove the trauma and rewrite how they see the world. Because this is coming out. Obviously, there's lots of research around it, but the issues are in the tissues. And so if you don't release them, they will continue to persist to bring attention to the fact that they're there, so that you will eventually move it out or you will heal it in the ways
Yeah.
that are appropriate.
Oh my gosh, so important. So one of the techniques that you like to utilize is emotional freedom technique, right?
Yes. Yeah. EFT. So it's also called tapping. And it really, to me, is like one of the fastest way to transform your health and life and feel happier and have more purpose. It just gets rid of anything that might be in the way of you being in alignment with what you really want to accomplish and be. So it's a technique where you tap on the body. First of all, anybody can learn it, which is what I love.
Yeah.
You don't have to see a practitioner, and you can do it for the small stuff, especially. But it might be easier if you work with a practitioner, if you're working on some big emotional trauma. But overall, it's something that kids do it and they love it. Adults do it. They could be at a stoplight and they can use it. And it's really just tapping on the body and talking to the self and saying, even though you're going through this, I deeply love and accept myself. Like even last night, my partner was throwing up in the middle of the night because she ate something bad. And I got up in fight or flight. I was like, oh my gosh, I hear her throwing up, and I ran to the bathroom and she said she was okay. And so I went back to sleep, I laid down, but my body was in fight or flight. So I couldn't calm down. So it took a while for me to fall back asleep. So eventually I was like, why don't I just do, some tapping? I don't need to actually tap because I've done it thousands of sessions. So my body just knows what to do. So I said, even though I'd like to be asleep, but I'm awake, I deeply love and accept myself. And then shortly after that, I was asleep again. So, I mean, it's just different ways that you can use it because you want to engage that parasympathetic nervous system where you rest, digest, and heal. You want to receive sleep. You want to be in the mode that is most conducive for sleep or healing.
Yeah, that's so cool. I think everybody should learn that technique because it can save you in so many circumstances. Like you said, you can just use it in little situations and you can teach your kids how to use it. That's so awesome. So what is the science behind that?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, everybody's like, you love it so much. Did you create it? And I'm like, no, I wish I did. So it's been around for about 20 years, and they've been studying it. So there's lots of meta studies, and they've studied depression and anxiety and test taking and PTSD. Actually, when I first got introduced to it, it was over a video that was about PTSD, and these guys were getting their lives back from war that had experienced so much trauma. They really were drinking a lot, and their marriages were at stake and things like that. And they just changed so drastically in this video. Also, I saw somebody get over their fear of heights, which was really cool, So, I mean, I was like, what is this all about? At first I was like, it's kind of goofy. There's a lot of steps. But once you learn the steps, I think of it like learning your iPhone. At first it was a little bit fumbly and you were like, where are my messages? Where, is my music and that kind of stuff. But in the end, you really wouldn't trade in carrying a computer and a phone and your, Rolodex and all the other things that you'd need and camera. And you'd rather have this one technique or one tool, right? Same thing with EFT. I feel like it kind of combines a lot of different tools in one simple, easy thing that gets you into the moment, clearing things out really quickly. It gets you into the present moment, which is probably one of the most important things, because so often we're in the future or we're in the past. We're thinking about the things that have happened and, reminiscing or ruminating over them. And then there's things that, people are like, well, when I get that thing in the future. And yes, it's important to visualize those things at times, but it's also really important to stay in the present moment and see all available options and take that next step. It's just one step, then the next, then the next, then the next, and eventually you get that thing. So, that's why I love it. I think that it moves out, or I know that it moves out the energy. I've seen it thousands of times. It moves out the energy and it shifts what's called the reticular activating system to see how you've been okay. So like going back to that snake, example, you'll basically realize if you do enough tapping, which I've done because I was afraid of snakes, you realize I've seen many snakes in my life and I've been completely fine. Like I haven't died from them. They haven't bit me. They haven't got close. So you start to see the truth of the matter, or that like, if you think you're not worthy, you start to realize, well, my kids love me and they think that I'm doing a great job. My husband thinks I'm doing a great job, or, my boss thinks I'm doing a great job. You're like, so who's telling me that I'm not doing a great job? Oh, me, and then that's when you get to deal with it. You get to realize, oh, if I'm the problem, then I can fix it. Right. Because that's the only thing you can change is your relationship to the outside world. Like, how do you interpret your outside circumstances? Like, you can't change them, but you can change how you see them. And that's what the reticular activating system is. It's just a lens, a different one that is more truthful to the actual truth of what is happening rather than, taking down that rabbit hole that nobody wants to go down.
Yeah, I think that we totally live in our head with these broken records of things that we've been saying for decades, and they're not helpful at all. And like you said, no one else is saying them, maybe somebody said them 30 years ago and we're just replaying, and we don't either recognize or realize we're doing it, or we don't know how to stop it. So I love that you're like giving people tools to stop that record and play something different. I think it's so important.
And it's so important to realize that if somebody did say it to you 30 years ago, it's probably because somebody else said it to them or somebody made them feel that way, right? So I try to teach my 6-year-old son, it's about the spitting the poison. Like they don't know how to, deal with it. So they just tell you that's how to do it, because they've been doing it and then it justifies why they've been doing it. But you can break that cycle and you can become the real you by getting rid of this trauma, by getting rid of this programming that you never wanted. And unfortunately, this happens usually 0 to 7, we're in a different altered state. And so, you can go back and people say, well, I don't remember when I was 0 to 7. I don't even know what I learned then. And that's the cool thing about your energy is that it remembers and it will move it out. So you don't necessarily have to know exactly what's wrong in the moment. I tell people all the time, if you're feeling off, just tap and say, even though I'm feeling off, or even though I'm feeling depressed and I don't know why. It'll eventually get you into that present moment. It'll move that energy out and you'll get a better awareness of what really is bothering you at the moment. And it's important to listen to that. And it's important to realize where that energy is stored. So the cool thing that I notice when people tap is that the shoulders start to relax or their stomach starts gurgling, which is the parasympathetic coming on because the energy is now there to digest their food. So it's such an amazing process and it's so easy to learn. And once you learn, you can really use it whenever.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you have a program that teaches that online. Is that right?
Yes, I have one coming up in an online training starting January 4th. It's called Align because as you imagine, getting in alignment with the things that you want. So it's an energy and mindset training, and it's actually really cheap for the new year, just because everybody is suffering so much right now that I really wanted to make it available for anybody who really wants to change and shift their life. It's 6 weeks on Mondays for an hour and a half. Depending on your time zone, it starts at 10 p.m. or 10 a.m., excuse me, Mountain Time.
Okay, that's so awesome. I'll definitely have the links in my show notes because people need to check that out. I think that can sound like an overwhelming thing to try and tackle on your own. And so I recommend doing it with someone like you. You just be guided, be open to the new idea, and you'd be amazed at how well it can work. I think that we also need to just take a step back and have more time to process during our day. Don't you? Like, I feel like everybody, like COVID's almost a timeout for us. Like, okay, it's time for you to go sit in the corner and think about what you've done, because we were all so busy and so overworked and had way too much on our plates. And so the universe is kind of like, okay, time out. Let's work on you. Let's deal with your pent up energies and emotions. And, for a lot of us, I've seen the weight gain come on, the depression and the anxiety worsen. And like you're saying, we have to tap into what is the energy blockage, what is this energy backup we're creating, and figure out how to get flowing in the right direction so that we can get out of this state of suffering and being in a state of happiness, because you can't be in both at the same time, right?
That's true. Yep.
Yeah. So is there anything that my listeners could just start today to get on this path? Like some easy hack? I know you love biohacking.
Yeah, I do. I do love biohacking. So like I really focus on mind, body, spirit, because it is all interchangeable. Like it all works together. But I really think that starting with the energy is the most important thing. And if your listeners want, they can go to my website and learn how to clear their energy, because that's different than EFT. Clearing your energy is that whole thing that you said, when we're all so sensitive to everybody else's energy, we don't realize it. So like, if you're somebody who can walk into a room and you feel the vibe in the room, or you feel like, how do I even know that they just had a fight? I wasn't even there, like these two people, you can just feel the tension. Clearing your energy is a great way to be able to walk away from people and not feel drained. So if you're a practitioner or, somebody who's meeting with a lot of people, you can feel drained at the end of the day because you're leaving with some people's energy in your space, whether you realize it or not. And when you clear your energy, you learn how to get centered. Anyway, you can get that at my website, by signing up for the email list. I don't want to waste people's time on going through the whole thing, unless they really want to. So you go there. But, I would say that tapping is something that they should learn for sure, because like I said, it's the fastest way to transform your health. And if you want, I can take you through a quick tapping session. Do you want me to do that?
Yeah, that would be awesome, Amy.
Okay, cool. So let's do, even though I don't feel like I'm good enough, because hello, a lot of people feel that way, especially women, which like I said, when you really get into the truth of it all, it's not true.
Right.
So I like to start out with a deep breath in and out. And I also like to say to people, on a scale of 0 to 10, how much is this bothering you? How much do you feel like you're just never enough? So we'll go with an 8, right? Because that's resonating with me right now.
Yeah.
So we'll take
you heard that from me.
I wouldn't doubt it, because I sense everything from people. So let's take a deep breath in and out. And let's start with the hand. So right on the hand, and it doesn't matter which one, right below the pinky, there's a spot in the fatty kind of part of your hand. Now, this is energy, so don't get hung up on like exactly having the point. Kind of just feel it out for yourself. But we're going to tap rhythmically, and we're going to say, even though I don't feel good enough at a level 8, I deeply love and accept myself. We're going to tap there, take a deep breath in and out. So what's happening internally right now is your body was thinking, I'm not good enough. A whole neural network lit up in your brain and body. And then what's happening is something is coming in that's different than how you were feeling, which is something that's rhythmic, soft, gentle, friendly, familiar. And what it does is it confuses the brain. And that's what we want to do, is we want to confuse the brain and say, What you were believing before isn't true. So let's take down that neural network and build one that is true. So we're going to move to the next spot, and we're going to tap on top of the head. We're going to say, even though I don't feel good enough at home, at work, for my husband or my partner, for my kids, so much is being asked of us right now, all of us, we're becoming teachers and employers or employees and things like that. So there's a lot of hats that we have to wear, and it's going to make us probably feel like we're not good enough. So let's take another deep breath in and out, tapping on the top of the head at the center. And on my website, there's, pics, like a pic of all the different spots. So if people need that, or I can send it to you and you can put it in the show notes if you want.
Yeah.
So take a deep breath in and out. Let's go to the next spot, which is the inner eyebrow. So the inner eyebrow is going to be around frustration and anger. So if you're feeling frustrated that you're just never enough, you're going to definitely want to talk about that. Ooh, I'm kind of feeling that in my jaw. So let's take a deep breath in and out and acknowledge that energy that's there and just say, even though I'm feeling this in my jaw, like I'm not good enough, I deeply love and accept myself. I just felt that in my heart space too. It's a little bit of heartbreak, right? Because when we are talking to ourselves like this, our body is recording it and our heart takes the hit. We feel upset. We feel sad. We're trying so hard. Why are you thinking this is not enough? We've gone to the brink of what we can do. So there's an inner dialogue that goes on, and a lot of women suffer from thyroid stuff, and that can be that inner dialogue of not speaking to themselves nicely for a long period of time. It could be that personal attack, autoimmune. There's something there, it's a personal attack on the body. So take a deep breath in and out. And I'm not diagnosing anybody. I'm just saying there's some things that are there that are energetically related.
It's so interesting that you talk about the thyroid and feeling like you're not using your voice, because I shared with you, Amy, I developed Hashimoto's during my pregnancy as a teenager because I felt like I didn't have a voice in my health care. I felt like things were happening to me and I couldn't speak up or say anything. And then I developed this. So you're going to make me cry. That's so crazy,
Yeah. And I want you to tap on that. Let's move that energy out, because when we don't say what we want to say, I feel the energy gets caught up in this area. Yeah. That's why I feel it in the jaw, and the teeth can hurt, and the throat. So let's take a deep breath in and out. Let's go to the outside of the eye and say, even though, and we want to get close to the eye. That's the way it is. It's not comfortable, but it's close to the outer eye. We're going to say, even though I have felt frustrated and not enough, and you can even say, I didn't have a voice when I was pregnant. And I was scared. I can feel that. You were scared. You felt alone. Those are all important feelings to process. A lot of times this tapping really, like I said, goes back to when we were younger and we didn't have tools. That's why I give this tool to kids, right? Think about that. We're going to have a generation of kids who will have tools to move energy and trauma in the moment or moments later, right? Yeah. That's why I'm passionate about teaching kids this, so we can have a healthier, happier generation to come. Let's take a deep breath in and out. What people may not understand is that there's a relationship between childhood trauma and addiction and mental illness and chronic illness later in life.
For sure.
And that's how, if we move this energy, we can transform how the person feels. So let's go under the eye. This one, it really gets women a lot because it's about control. So a lot of times we feel like we can control the outside world, like what our kids say or do, or, how happy our husband is, or how happy our, boss is, or whatever. But in the end, all we can do is our best, and we can only change how we feel about the situation. So a lot of women, need to tap underneath the eye because it helps to move the control energy in the body. So let's go underneath the nose, and this one I love because this is like the spot. This connects the mind and the body. For women, especially, there becomes a disconnection, especially if we're talking about not being good enough. The brain says, I'm not good enough. The body says, but we're so tired. And so there becomes this cut off, between the brain and the body. And then the body winds up creating this stress, and then this stress builds, and then the person usually gets sick. And then they say, wait a second, what's going on here? So anyway, this helps to connect everything so that you get in sync, so that the brain and the body are respecting each other again. So I love it. Take a deep breath in and out. So even though I haven't been feeling like I'm enough, I deeply love and accept myself. So I feel like the number's coming down. Would you say it's coming down?
Yeah, I'm feeling 4.
Cool. Awesome. So you want to keep checking in and acknowledge that number and say, even though it's now a 4, I deeply love and accept myself. And sometimes people are like, wow, I can feel this good this fast. Like they almost get scared. Like I actually have worked with a woman who went through all kinds of trainings to try to get over her fear of flying. And we did one session and she was able to fly, and she was only freaked out because she realized, how is this even possible? Like she was more scared that it had changed so drastically, but she wasn't afraid of flying anymore. So we just need to recognize that the energy is going to be one of the fastest ways to heal the body.
So incredible. So
this one's going to be a big one for you, Tabatha, Dr. Tabatha, because it's where you haven't said things that you wanted to say. So go ahead and even just in your head, say the things that you wanted to say to those doctors. Oh gosh. Sometimes I get it in the tongue as well as the back of the throat. Like it just feels like I want to shout, and I just want to almost like.
Well, I think this is why I created the podcast, right? Like I want to have women have a voice, and they need to be informed and knowledgeable, but also feel supported and secure in themselves to be able to speak up and say, what you're telling me isn't right. Like, I don't feel well. You're not helping me. I need more, I'm going to go somewhere else. And so I just think it's really cool how it's come full circle. It's taken 40 years, 30 years. I'm not that old. Getting there.
Yeah. And I love that you do that. And that's why I labeled your podcast A Voice and a Choice, because it's so important. And I have been told that there's nothing that they could do for me. And I'm like, but that's not okay. Like, I need you to refer me to somebody else who can do something for me. Yeah. So let's take a deep breath in and out. I love that you dive deeper and get the answers. That's what we need. So the next one is right on the chest, and it's right underneath the collarbone. And this is definitely a fear-related energy. So you want to think about where am I feeling fear? What happens if I'm not good enough? People might leave me. People might think I'm a horrible person. I might get fired. You want to like focus on the kind of things that might come up because of this limiting belief. Like, why do you keep it in place?
Yeah.
So take a deep breath in and out. And you say, even though I'm afraid I'm going to get fired or people won't like me, I deeply love and accept myself. I feel like by acknowledging that, yours drop down to a 2. Is that?
Yes. Yeah.
So let's go to the next one. I like to go over the heart space. So it's right over the thymus, actually. So it helps to pump that thymus, the lymph fluid. And, but more importantly to me, actually, is just, it's kind of like, hi, I'm here. I love you. I'm willing to work through these things. I'm sorry that I've been talking to you this way. I'm going to do better. My best, but I'm going to do better because I've been hurting myself and I'm not knowingly. So take a deep breath in and out. And I felt that drop down to a 1. So that's good. So then the next point is 2 points are at the bra line. And they are the spleen and liver points. So the spleen is usually related to worry, and liver is anger. So anywhere where you might have worry or anger, you're going to want to talk about that and say, I worry that my kids are going to flunk out of school or not learn how to read, or, whatever it is that you've got going on right now. I worry that Christmas won't be what I want it to be, or the house won't look the way that I want it to look, whatever it may be. Just talk about it. We don't take this time to really share our feelings and in a safe space. I mean, you're just by yourself, right? So it's safe. Take a deep breath in and out. And essentially, when we're doing this tapping, like I said, we pay attention to how our body's feeling. We pay attention to our emotions. We pay attention to that number, and we want it to be a 2 or a less. You can stop tapping now. And when it's a 2 or a less, it's going to just continue to work itself out over the next 3 days. The channels are opened up. It's sort of like removing a broken down car where there's traffic. The traffic can then flow. And that's exactly what we just did. We took those emotions that were stuck and moved them along. And then the rest of the stuff that was backed up can now move out. And so sometimes that looks like maybe a little bit of emotion later on in the day or the next day. You might find yourself like, oh, I just want to cry for some reason. It's just the energy moving out. Or I have a pain, in a new spot, but then that moves out the next day. It's amazing how the body just, gets this stuff out and heals. It's really cool.
Yeah. So just embrace it and go with it is what you're saying. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's so good. I mean, I think we're all thinking those things. Like I was thinking, is my son going to be able to learn his math? Because it's really hard to pay attention on your Zoom class for 8 hours and not connect with your friends and all of that. So I've been stressing about that with him. And so you hit on that point, and I've been like, is Christmas going to be the same? I'm not going to get together with family. Like, it's just, there's so many questions up in the air right now. I think that is a really amazing way to just let those thoughts flow through you and find resolution. So thank you for walking us through that. That was so beautiful.
Oh, you're welcome. And so again, to the reticular activating system, I mean, now you see the world in a new way. How do you feel about Christmas? I mean, do you feel like, it'll work out, I'm worrying too much. It's not about, the clean house or the presents or the whatever. It's about the being together, even if it's just your immediate family and just being present, right? You find out what really matters.
Yeah, I was thinking, just make the most of it, just do with what you have, and that will be just fine. So that's amazing. Oh my gosh. So tell my listeners where they can find you, Amy.
Sure. So the Affiliate Podcast is one of the places, but you can go to Stark Transformation and find all the information about me there.
Yeah, what a beautiful transformation. So I hope everybody checks you out. That's so cool. And then, like you mentioned, you're starting your Align program here for the new year. So we'll have that link for everybody in the show notes. Check that out. So I hope everybody on this podcast tries tapping more than once, right? How many times would you say it takes to get comfortable and have it become a habit?
Yeah. So I forgot to mention the science. So there's 72 genes that get turned on for healing in 1 hour of tapping. And there's a decrease of cortisol, which women tend to have problems with, by 24%, and as much as 37%, they're starting to notice. So it really does turn that stress hormone, or bring that stress hormone down. And the research was on an hour, but like I said, you can do it at a stoplight. I know women who do it when they're in the shower, because that's the only time they get, or at night when I was trying to fall asleep. I did it for like 5 minutes or less. It's just, if you're doing the work, you're going to get there. And so the more time that you have, the better, because the deeper you can go and remove this energy and reprogram your brain. But you don't have to do it for a long period of time, and it will eventually just become easy. I promise you. It's like learning your iPhone. You're like, what's really motivational is that you feel so great. You're like, I'm going to remember this because it works.
You just took me from an 8 to a 1 in like a few minutes, right? On camera, nonetheless, but I physically feel different. I feel calmer, and so if that can happen that quickly, like, what happens if I'm really getting into it? So check it out. That's so awesome. Woo. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the Functional Gynecologist podcast. You're an awesome guest.
Thank you. This was a pleasure.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye.
Oh my God. gosh, that was so good. I am totally going to start doing tapping every day now. You know, I've talked about it, I've read about it, but I never have done it myself. I usually use meditation or breathing techniques to get myself out of that sympathetic, dominant, fearful state and bring myself down to rest and digest, calming parasympathetic mode. But that really worked. So I'm excited to have a new tool in my toolbox. So I am going to do tapping. And I hope that you'll join me. I hope that you'll try it a few times. Reach out to Amy, connect with her, because she is the master and she's going to teach you how to unblock all that bad energy so that you can just be your best, amazing self. It's so good. So I really hope you got something out of this. If you did, I would love and appreciate so much if you would leave me a review on iTunes, maybe even hit 5 stars, because we need to let iTunes know that you guys find this important and you're getting value from it. You want more, because that's how they know, and that's how I can justify to them. So please help me out. Share this episode with your friends and everybody that you know, and definitely come back next week. But don't forget, like, take something from this episode. So if you're not going to do tapping, at least start thinking about the fact that your energy does get transmitted from person to person. So just as bad attitudes are infectious, so is amazing, beautiful energy that's, you know, positive and creative and transformative. So think about, what kind of energy am I putting out into the world, and what kind of energy am I getting from those around me? And let's try to just make this world a better place together. Let's try to push the positive energy to overcome that bad energy, okay? So thank you so much. It was a great episode this week, and I just appreciate you guys so much for entrusting me and letting me be your functional gynecologist. So have a kick-ass week. Bye, ladies.